Hi, my name is Matt Kimball, and I am here for another episode of 6.5 on the Road at Supercomputing 25. I have with me the famous Nicolas Sagnes
Hello.
from Cisco. Nicolas is a product lead or a marketing lead for all things AI infrastructure at Cisco. And today we're going to be talking about going inside Cisco's secure AI factory. Nicolas, thanks for being here. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to
Appreciate
be
it.
fun. So MIT, I think I've referenced this study about 1 million times in the last few months. MIT released a study a few months ago, talked about the challenges that enterprises face with deploying AI. I think they said something along the lines of 5% of the enterprises they had interviewed or had surveyed had failed to take that AI project out of pilot and into production and show a measurable return on investment.
Yeah.
Biggest culprit, no surprise, data, right?
Mhm.
And obviously security is a huge element of that. A lot of companies are doing AI pilots. They're moving, they're doing, maybe they stand up, kind of one workload, but it's not scaling for some reason or another, right? What do you think is holding these companies back? And what is, Cisco's AI factory, AI factories in general, but Cisco's AI factory, how's it kind of get you from pilot to production?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you're spot on with the MIT report. I think that puts into light a lot of the issues that customers are experiencing.
Mhm.
And, that from what they're telling us and what we've observed as well, it's basically they've been successful in some capacity in some islands of AI production. Some enterprises started by just buying GPU compute. And it was the race to get the GPU compute clusters ramped up. But very quickly, as they embedded these GPUs, they discovered bottlenecks very quickly.
Mhm.
So networking is a big thing. Data, as you said, having multiple data silos, 20 to 200 silos, sometimes even more
Mhm.
in the enterprise with different formats, no security, no access control, no real acceleration of data everywhere. Very quickly, they got stranded in their capacity. So they had the GPU compute, but nothing to back it up and to feed these GPUs. As you said, security as well. So security was an afterthought. I think now the industry is kind of moving around into it. And that's really the stance of Cisco here, as we developed a lot of solutions and also framework around security. So what is security for AI? End-to-end security, not just bolted on after the fact as an afterthought, but really from the ground up when you design your cluster, when you design your AI infrastructure, to have security in mind as part of the framework. And so that's what led Cisco to develop the Secure AI Factory with NVIDIA.
Mhm.
That was really the great collaboration there. Yeah.
So, one of the things we're hearing about kind of operationalizing AI, right, or activating AI, right? You kind of hit on it with, they found this island of data in enterprise IT, and they turned it into something. Maybe it's a chatbot for HR or for support or something along those lines. But we're hearing more and more as the market goes. When it comes to practical implementations, there's Agentic AI, there's RAG, this thing called RAG, right? Retrieval-Augmented Generation. Um, and it sounds really great, but what do those actually look like in terms of practice, right? Can you talk about like how organizations are actually employing AI and employing RAG and employing agentic AI? Because these really speak to that, what you talked about, those dozens to hundreds of, data sources that are sitting all over the place in an enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this is a great question because enterprises most of the time will not play in the training realm, will not develop training clusters to develop their own models. They will use predetermined models, open source models. They will post-train them, fine-tune them, and then implement them in their application. And so that's where the economic value is for the enterprise today. So the RAG pipelines, the RAG implementation. So you have to have a RAG-ready fabric that feeds data. So one of the key approaches is NVIDIA AI Data Platform. So NVIDIA really understood that issue from early on when they started partnering with Vast Data, NetApp, Pure Storage, all the ecosystem partners in the market. saying that, hey, we have an issue with data for AI. We need to bring GPU compute to the data. And so that's what the AI data platform, reference design, reference architecture is. And that's what we took at Cisco as part of the Secure AI Factory. So Secure AI Factory being the overarching concept, the kind of the modular blueprint to tell you exactly what you need to do for that outcome of RAG and inferencing or training, regardless of what you're trying to do. But if you're an enterprise, it's going to be mostly RAG and inferencing. And you can apply the right density of compute and get the right network optimized and accelerated for your task. And that data system is underneath it. So the AI data platform at Cisco, we really pushed that concept to compute. So we embed the software piece directly in our servers, and you can really very easily configure your RAG-ready fabric in a secure way using the Secure AI Factory stack.
So when you talk about kind of the partnership that NVIDIA has established and Cisco has established, more importantly, Cisco, with the VASTs of the world that are, addressing huge data set challenges, right? Or the NetApps and the Pures that are maybe doing it more at the commercial enterprise level. Are you saying that Cisco has kind of created a fabric that takes, data that's existing across hundreds of data sources, databases, data lakes, even just a bunch of unstructured data, and you're helping those, those large, vast, data platforms feed those GPUs consistently so that they're never starving, so to speak, and doing that in a secure fashion? Is that where you're?
Yeah. Basically, what we did is, first of all, we applied that science to ourselves. We did with Cisco and Cisco. We kind of live in our own AI data platform and our own Secure AI Factory because that's Cisco's approaches. We have that Cisco validated design that is really the core philosophy of everything we do. We test it ourselves. We test it with customers. We make sure that it works. And so working with NVIDIA was very instrumental, and VAST as well, and other ecosystem partners as well, to get that feedback of what is the best practice, what is the reference design and architecture, and how do we operationalize it, back to your question earlier. And the way we did it is with Cisco AI pods. So we developed and designed the right fabric sizes based on these compute densities of ERAs or CRAs, all the architectures. And when you want to do RAG with a specific amount of density and you size up your model, that will tell you the right fabric you need to apply. Back-end fabric and front-end fabric to optimize your GPUs, and then the right way to bring the data in. And that's the work we did to create the storage servers with VAST.
I think when a lot of enterprises, I talk to CIOs, and IT leaders and business leaders frequently, and there's this rush to, and you hit it on it earlier, right? Get as many GPUs as I can, get them deployed everywhere. And there's no and by the way, that kind of goes downstream into the fabric you're deploying is just as much as you can. And a lot of times it's too much, right? It's not right-sized for the needs of the enterprise. When you talk about kind of stepping back and working with organizations to understand kind of what their data needs are and what their fabric needs are, and then deploying the right-sized front end and back end, it's nice to know that you're kind of thinking about what this looks like in the real world as it's deployed, and not some, I want to be like AWS or Azure and have the largest GPU farm I possibly can. That's actually really good to hear.
Yeah, I think there is also something to be said about what status are you in as an enterprise? What is the size of your data science team? Are you developing your own AI? Are you taking AI out of the box and operationalizing it, creating the blueprints everywhere, the applications? So we have great partners. We partner with like WWT, for example, that can help develop these applications from that AI pod Secure AI Factory foundation and help deliver that application faster. And you remove the guesswork out of the equation. How am I gonna optimize my cluster, make sure that I have correct ROI and I can distribute my GPU resources while I feed all that data and I operationalize that data. So basically the concept of disaggregation is I break out the silos, no more tiered storage, no more tiered silos. I have a distributed environment that's shared everywhere and accelerated everywhere. And then I bring GPUs to that data plane to accelerate the data path to my RAG infrastructure. So that's really how these systems are.
You're hitting on kind of exactly what we talked about at the beginning, which is time to first token, ROI, time to value. How quickly can I turn this really big investment into incredible value to the organization? Hey, going back to the security thing for a second, because you talk about security first, right? What's that mean for like a CIO or an IT team on a day-to-day basis? It's like how are organizations balancing privacy, governance, safety, security without impacting performance, and in really kind of scaling, or speeding up scale of AI. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What do you see out there?
Yeah. So, and I think that's kind of the overarching questions. We talk with a lot of CIOs. We had our customers in Austin, Texas recently as part of our advisory board, and they're kind of all in the same boat where they want a full stack approach, basically. From the ground up, from the network. That's what we adopted as an approach is the hybrid mesh firewall reference architecture, where we have the security and the DPUs embedded in our switches, and we're able to have hardware security everywhere. And then going up the stack into the Kubernetes layer, that's really where you're going to impact or help performance while embedding security. And that's all the work that Isovalent is doing, Cisco's acquisition of Isovalent that developed Cilium and eBPF protocols, where basically you can apply security guardrails and policies on every container without impacting performance and at scale. And so that's the Isovalent Kubernetes for networking offering that we announced a couple months ago. That's very helpful there. And so once you have your Kubernetes layer solved, then you can approach the application layer. And so that's where we developed AI Defense. So AI Defense gives you the means to control the models you're using. If you're using open source models, or if you develop your models, you're going to be able to apply guardrails and apply policies across the board on every model that you run, and understand which data is being fetched, which data is being shared outside. That's what we use for ourselves in our own Cisco IT circuit. That's the name of our tool, our Gen AI tool. That's how we control this. And for a user to bring data to a third-party LLM like ChatGPT or anything, you will get better visibility and understanding of what they're uploading, while everything is watermarked in your databases, and you're able to understand the behavior of your AI models into your pipeline. So that full stack approach is really key. And then we'll see more and more tools coming up, in the upcoming months and years. And that's a pretty exciting field, actually.
Because you're embedding it at such a low level and you're kind of integrating it at the foundation, you're not impacting that performance that so many, organizations, especially as you get to, RAG and inference, or you're kind of driving that, near real-time responsiveness that, enterprises crave. You're not impacting that by kind of building in all these guardrails and ensuring security and privacy of data.
But the key theme across the board is basically you have to design a system. It's not just designing a silo of compute for a specific application with a top-down silo that is completely incoherent with the rest of the organization. You have to have that system mindset and approach where security needs to be across the board in a coherent system. Networking needs to be accelerated with the right type of fabric. Storage needs to be accelerated, and then you start getting the benefit that lifts the entire enterprise.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because to me that kind of speaks to kind of the enterprise AI story in general, right? Which is it's got to be horizontal and span the entire enterprise. You can't stand up, an application here or an AI-powered application here without thinking about the impact to the enterprise application over here. That's also going to be AI-ified, right, through agentic. It's like you've got to take that broad view and you've got to start from the right, which is the experience, and work all the way back, which impacts security, performance, governance, so on and so forth.
You can't do agentic at scale if you don't have that type of infrastructure. Very quickly, these models are going to clog the entire pipeline of resources. and or explode the cost. So it's either or.
Already exploding costs.
Yeah.
It's like an exponential.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, one last question for you before we go. This is a fun conversation, but you are out in the market, talking to CIOs every day. You had your advisory session or board down in the lovely city of Austin, where we're both from. As you're talking to CIOs and IT leaders and business leaders, because this is touching every part of the organization, for 2026 AI strategies, 2027 and beyond, and kind of looking long term, what's the one thing you would tell them to focus on, like right now, to be ready for that secure production grade AI that will, not only empower the enterprise, but also secure and kind of, drive incredible results for them?
Yeah. And I think what we're seeing is that a lot of IT leaders today, they're playing catch up on the AI roadmap, and that interface with line of business and the economic value they want to prioritize, I think is very important. And they're all trying to make sense of the infrastructure they had deployed 5 years ago, and the platform, like, how can I leverage my previous platforms? And so one leverage for that is, I think, is twofold. First, you can leverage new cloud type of infrastructure. Like, for example, NVIDIA came up with NVIDIA Workbench or DGX Cloud to help you scale quickly and iterate in the cloud, and then port these workloads on-prem. So that's more the data science and AI team that will work in that field. And then when it comes on-prem, you have to have a blueprint and a framework in mind. So that's what the Secure AI Factory is for. Do I have the right security policies and model? Do I have the right governance and observability across the stack? Am I able to digest and grow my GPU pool and distribute these resources? So some element needs to be completely overhauled, some element needs to be upgraded, and some element just need to be tweaked. So every enterprise has a different equation at the end of the day. But I think it's really key, again, to design the system, especially if you're at the edge, when you have distributed compute in thousands of locations, et cetera, that are all doing inference or growing into the inference. You're going to need more and more compute capacity at the edge. And so extending that framework to the edge and being able to leverage your data center and your edge deployments together.
I think the underlying connectivity, there are so many organizations out there that are running on a networking infrastructure and an interconnect infrastructure that is maybe a little bit older than AI is going to demand. I think starting foundation up is critical. I think one of the other things, as AI is an Uber automation or business process modernization effort, right? And we did this back in the early days where we turned writing in ledgers to programs. The difference is every organization and every piece of your organization now touches the other. So this can't be a Nicolas as a IT leader supporting HR goes and rewrites their HR application. He has to also speak to every other organization and make sure that they're all working together to build that kind of end-to-end, fully efficient and fully operationalized organization.
I think it's very important. You need to have that standardized infrastructure approach from the compute, so the right amount of compute for the right workloads in the right platforms that you can add on more compute, and you have the fabric underneath that supports it and the data plane that supports it. But really where you'll see the more flexibility and ease of use, so to speak, is on the container level. So the container orchestration, what we're doing with Red Hat, OpenShift AI, for example, the ability to have all the Kubernetes value is key, because you're going to embed the security at that level, and you will enable different teams to share resources and kind of virtualize this GPU pool everywhere. So any data science teams that want to work on a new application, your HR use case, they'll be able to leverage GPU on tap without clogging the system, and they will get the capacity they need to get their value. So you become a service model to the business as an IT professional, basically.
Yeah, you become the consultant. I love this. I think we could talk for the next hour about how this all plays out and how Cisco really is kind of the underlying kind of enablement of this entire AI environment. Nicolas, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
to
It was
chat
a
with
great
me.
conversation. Thank
Yeah, this is fun. And thank you for, I know you're busy at Supercomputing 25, walking the floor, shaking hands and kissing babies. Thank you for coming on in and having this discussion, and the best of luck with the rest of the conference.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to this this episode of 6.5 on the road at Supercomputing 25. Stay tuned for more content.